ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਫਿਰਤ ਫਿਰਤ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਇਆ ਪਰਿਆ ਤੋ ਸ਼ਰਣਾਏ ਨਾਨਕ ਕੀ ਪ੍ਰਬੇਨਤੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਭਗਤੀ ਲਾਏ I've wandered for many lifetimes. I've wandered from door to door. And today, O Lord, I've come to your house. And as I've come to your house, I pray you bless me and you answer all my desires and you fulfill them too. At the same time, I pray you take away all my sorrows, my pains, my suffering. But most importantly, O Lord, as I come to your house, I pray you connect me to the beautiful devotional service, Apani Bhagati Lai. In the next few episodes, we are going to be basically understanding the beautiful compositions that we have been ordained to do every day. Japji Sahib, Jap Sahib, Twa Prasad Soye, Chopai Sahib, Anand Sahib, and in the evenings as you come back from work, the Rehras Sahib, and before we go to bed, the Kirtan Suhela. Each of these compositions have their own significance, have their own relevance, have their own power. And I will be sharing with you, in today's modern society, how relevant our Sikh religion per se is to today's living. Everywhere we go, every lecture I have given, this question has always arisen. Is Sikhism a relevant religion to today's times? And this is a question even those people who do not ask have it at the back of their minds. Some people think even this sarup, the keeping of our long hair, the wearing of the 5Ks, staying away from the 4 kurahats, and living your life of discipline, some people believe maybe those things are outdated, if I can use that term. But the need is today for us to comprehend and understand that these things are also relevant today as they were when Guruji first ordained us to follow these. Any time in the history of mankind, in the history of any society, whenever down times have come, whenever troubled times have come, always God has sent someone to take care of its own people. So we start by looking at the need for religion. Like I mentioned, whenever there is lots of pain, suffering and sorrow in any land around the world, whenever there's a decline in righteousness, whenever there is oppression, there is chaos in the lives of people, and whenever people move away from the path of godliness, then great men of all faiths have come to this earth to bring us back onto that path, to protect dharma, to destroy unrighteousness, most importantly to enrich the sacred literatures and scriptures, but even more importantly to reawaken the love for the Almighty God within our hearts. And I share with you today, Babur had invaded India. Babur's armies assaulted and sacked literally every city in India. All the holy people were captured. There were massacres everywhere. And the kings were just bloodthirsty. They were bloodthirsty, cruel, they were tyrannical. And in that time, there was no real religion in India. In those times, there was religion persecution. In those religion, the real spirit of religion was totally crushed by ritualistic practices. And hearts of people were filled with falsehood, if not cunningness, if not selfishness, greed, and every other evil that you can think. And at that time, like Gurbani says, Paya Anand Jagat Vich, Kal Taran Guru Nanak Aya. The world was filled with joy. The world was so ecstatic because Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji had come to give us deliverance from the age of Kaljug. At that such a time, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji came to earth to give us that message of peace, the message of unity, the message of love, the message of devotion to God, devotion to all mankind. And he came at a time when people of different faiths were fighting amongst each other. He came when there was no unity and everybody thought my religion was better than yours and your religion is much lesser a religion. And there was these divisions. And he came. He came with just the ulterior motive of doing one thing, and that is to preach the gospel of brotherhood, the gospel of peace, the gospel of unity of the entire human mankind. He came full of love and he was willing to sacrifice not only as an individual but all the other Gurujis who after him, who followed after him, they gave up their lives for truth, and many a time not for their own people, but even people of other races, other religion, other cultures, to uphold just one thing, and that was dignified living in the eyes of tyranny. Above all, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji's message was just one. And each and every one of us watching this needs to adopt this message. It's a message of service to God, service to mankind. And above all, that may each and every one of us learn to live as brothers, regardless of race, language, or religion. So in today's session, I'll just share with you some basic principles of Sikhism in this short program that we have. Maybe I'll share with you some basic Sikh beliefs, some concepts, some philosophies, some basic tenets of Sikhism. But most importantly, we will look at how each of this are practical and relevant to today's lifestyle. No point talking about things that are past. These teachings are still today relevant as they were relevant many, many years ago. And along the way, you will listen and hear many interesting facts about the Sikh religion. As a summary, maybe in a deeper program, we will look at the lives of all the 10 Gurujis. But in 1469, that is when Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji came to being, and his Jyot, the divine light that was within him, it was passed down the line of 10 Gurujis. Finally, today, that same light, that same Jyot that came from Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji rests in the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, the eternal living master, Sahib Mera, Neet Nawa, Sada Sada Datar. He's always new, ever fresh, ever relevant to any time, not just now, but in many years, many lifetimes to come. Aad such, jugad such, even today happy such, and Nanak hosi be such. For the rest of eternity, Guruji says, nothing to worry about. The relevance of the teachings of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji and the teachings of our masters as embodied in the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji shall always remain relevant, even long after you and I are gone. So I start off with the two very basic principles, the basic beliefs of Sikhism. We talk about Ek Noor te sab jag upjya, kaun pale ko mande. I shared with you a few moments ago. Times were bad, everyone was fighting, there was infighting, people were like not living happily with their neighbors. And Guruji says, Ek Noor te. Oh man, why are you fighting with your neighbors? Why aren't you loving the person next door? After all, each and every one of us has come from that one light. Man, tu jyot saroop hai apna mool pachan. Realize that within you is the same light that is within the next door neighbor, within the person who lives next to you. So the very basic two principles of Sikhism that Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji taught at that point, and I think are super relevant even as you watch this program today, is the universality of God and the brotherhood of mankind. The belief that is embodied in the Mool Mantar. And we will discuss the entire Mool Mantar in depth. In fact, if I have the time, I'll share with you each and every pauri of the Japji Sahib, which seems to be a summary of the entire teachings of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, which is all, if you bring it down to the Mool Mantar. And everything speaks about the greatness of Lord, that there is this one universal creator God. At that time, everyone said, my God is bigger than your God. Your God doesn't have these powers, mine does. But Guruji says, no. Oh man, learn that there is just one universal God. And if you look at the Onkar, it has got those three. We will talk about that too in another program. But it talks about His name is truth, that God's name is Satnam, Karta Purukh, the creative being personified. He doesn't have fear. Nirpo, Nirvair, neither does God have any enemies, no hatred. He's the image of the undying, He's beyond birth, He's self-existent. And the best part, what are we and you to do is to ask for Gur Prasad, the grace of the Almighty Guru. Because when that grace comes, then alone do we start to comprehend our relationship, our true relationship with that all one mighty God. And Guruji says, then Jap, Aad such, true in the primal beginnings, Jugad such, true throughout the ages, Habi such, He's still true. Even today, and Nanak hosi be such. He shall always and forever remain true. Maybe I can use the word relevant. So the first basic principle is the principle of the universality of God, that God is that Almighty Father and we are all His beautiful children. And that brings me to the second belief, that if each and every one of us are the beautiful children of God, then we have to believe in the brotherhood, or may I even say sisterhood, or siblinghood, if I can use those terms, of the entire human mankind. We have to recognize that this is the inherent, dignified position that each and every person on this planet has. No one is high, no one is low. We are all but the children of that one Almighty God, of equal and no different rights, because we all belong to the same human family that has been created by God. And this lays the foundation for freedom, for justice and peace here on earth and in our lives hereafter. So now, talking about life, I'm going to move one step further into the concepts and philosophies of the Sikh religion, which you, as you listen to it, think about it, and you would realize that each and every one of them is so relevant to today's times. None of them, in fact, the ones that I'll share with you, happen to be outdated. And then when you start to realize that, that's the day that pride will come from within us, that, oh my, we have been given this great legacy. It is just maybe us who have failed to understand it, or maybe us who have failed to explain it in the right proper terms. And today we hope to share this great message. So where does the Sikh, let's say, life start and end with? And Guruji says the Sikh life is a balance between two things. One, temporal power, and one, material, that's temporal power. And on the other hand, secondly, your spiritual life. The whole concept of Miri and Piri, that you are supposed to be living within this world, having a worldly life, going to work, going to school, those of us who are young, for the matter, those of us with responsibilities, to run your family to the best of your abilities, but at the same time, while looking after your material needs, never to forget that you and I are a spiritual being, and Gobind Milan ki e teri bariya, that this is your and mine golden opportunity to become one with God, to be in unity with God, so we are free from this life cycles, the 84 lakh cycle that you and I have been going through. And at the same time, the two kirpans that were given to us by the sixth master, Sri Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji, the Miri and the Piri, tells us that you know how to stand up for your own rights. And at the same time, you know how to stand up for the rights of the downtrodden. People who need the help, people whose rights are being overcome, people who need the self-defense, people who need the protection because they are oppressed in any way. Those who are weak, you and I, with these two swords that we are supposed to wear, is always ready to stand up, not only for ourselves, but for everyone else around us. The first principle. I move a little bit further. While we were talking about worldly life and spiritual success, that's where Guruji says your second basic concept and philosophy is to learn to be a Jivan Mukta, a being who is liberated and free, yet living in the world itself. I can give you two examples from Gurbani, and maybe we'll develop these concepts in detail in the future programs. But as this is an overview of the entire program series, I'm just going to give you two small examples. The first being that lotus flower. And Guruji says, be like the lotus flower. You are in the pond. It is full of water, full of everything that's wet. But the lotus flower learns to remain totally dry. Number two, be like that bird in the water. It is always swimming. You may have seen those beautiful ducks in the water. They're always swimming above the water, but they never allow the water to touch them. Jivan Mukta, that you are attached to the world, yet detached from all the evils around. That you are living a life in this world, but yet connected at all times. Aat Peher Salahe Sirjan Hartu. At 24 hours, always connected to God, but at the same time, your heart connected to the world. Second principle. And related to that, I move to the next one. Every day, you and I listen to the ardas. Maybe you do the ardas too, after your part, after your kirtan, after your simran. And the beautiful concept that I'm going to share with you, the third one, I believe is something so unique, something that's not shared maybe by many other brothers and sisters in different faiths. And that is the power of a few words, 3 words in fact, that you and I are supposed to say at the end of every prayer. Yes, you know the words, Sarbat da Pala, Nanak Naam Chardi Kala and Tere Bhane Sarbat da Bhala. You see, that's the difference, I believe very strongly, where Sikhism teaches us never to be egocentric, never to just think of yourself, oh man, but think of the welfare of the entire humanity. That as you are praying, maybe I was praying today because I need something in my life. Maybe I have some pain that I want to destroy. Maybe I want God to take away some sorrow in my life. But I pray for those things. Those are my personal prayers. But at the end of that prayer, Sikhism teaches us the beautiful art of also saying, oh Lord, while you are listening to my prayers, please do answer the prayers of Sarbat Dapala. And that's a beautiful concept Sikhism shares. The man, each and every one of our obligations, our social obligations, to not just look at our lives, but to look at the lives of everybody around us and ensure the entire humanity goes up. Because why? Universality, fatherhood of God, and brotherhood, sisterhood, siblinghood of the entire mankind. 3 powerful principles. I move to number 4, and this is nice. In every society today, you just heard me say brotherhood, sisterhood, and siblinghood. I'm trying to be politically correct because the women's movement, that's something new today. They are saying, no, why are you always saying mem, he, and so on and so forth? What happened to the women? What happened to she? And Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji, imagine this, not now, but more than 500 years ago, already gave the equal status to men and women. And that is another beautiful thing about this religion that keeps us absolutely relevant. In fact, the 3rd Guruji, if I'm not mistaken, Sri Guru Amar Das Ji, abolished the practice of sati and parda during those times. Because he said, no, women and men are both equally created as equal human beings. And this is entire beautiful principle, another principle which keeps our religion relevant today. I move further. Something nice, and I received this little email from somebody the other day. It says there are jokes that go around about Sardarjis. You may have received those emails. You may have received those SMSs. You may have seen those funny things on Twitter coming out and all that. But the latest email that I got was very touching. Because that email said, Pal, not just looked at all the Sardarji jokes that you and I get, because it affects our self-esteem. I will not deny the fact that self-esteem is an important thing if you want to walk and talk and live in society. And when people make fun of us, we actually feel a little bit lower. But I remember this last email, and I'll link that email to the next concept. The next concept is very important. But in that email it stated, as much as all these people may crack jokes at us, I mean the Sikhs, but as much as they make fun of us, but at the end of the day, if you ask the same people, go look around for a single Sikh beggar in the entire world, you will never be able to find a single Sikh beggar. A person who's a Sikh and has to go out there and ask for alms. There is never any, because that's the next principle that makes Sikhism so relevant. It teaches us to be, each and every one of us, to learn to be self-sufficient. But that's not the only thing. But more important than that, it teaches us to share what we have in the next concept of langar and pangat. And this is important. If I as an individual do not have enough for myself, how will I ever give my daswand? How will I be able to contribute the 10% or even much more than that to the needy people around me? And that is the concept of langar and pangat. In fact, when that Emperor Akbar came to the house of Sri Guru Amar Das Ji, it is said he had to sit at the same level, he had to eat the same food that was prepared in the same kitchen, on the same plate, regardless of his status being a king and the rest who were sitting being his citizens. And this entire principle of langar and pangat, the idea of sitting at the same level, brings us such a unique level of understanding, the level of equality, of man, before you even talk about God. Beautiful concept. And I move to the next concept, which I think is something that you and I should always learn and aspire to live our lives with. I spoke about low self-esteem. But I'll tell you something, you and I need to learn the secret behind always having an optimistic outlook in life. People say, successful people have got one thing in common, and that is they are always optimistic. Even when times are down, they know how to bring their spirits higher. They know how to come out of those down times. They know how to live and learn these two words in a state of Chardi Kala. Chardi Kala, I believe, if you and I and every one of us can learn to adopt in our lives, and this is a beautiful principle, it will not only make our lives wonderful, but it will make the lives of everyone else equally wonderful. The only reason two people fight is because one thinks he is more superior than the other. That thing about jealousy comes in. But when Guruji says, Nako beri nahe begana, sagal sangha hamako banai, I don't have no enemies. No one is a stranger. In fact, everyone is my brother. Everyone is my beloved. And Guruji says this beautiful principle. How do you reach that state of being where you take everybody as your brother, you take everybody as equal to you, is when you start to live with a good high self-esteem. I'm not talking about ego, we'll touch on that later, but a good high self-esteem and in the spirit of Chardi Kala. With that will come the next principle, and with that we will end off today's program of selfless service. That when you have reached a level of being, you learn now not just to live for yourself but for everybody else. That concept of Satgur ki seva safal hai je ko kare chit laye. Serving your true master is only fruitful if you do it with true love, true devotion. And the day when it comes, we start to see God in all. The story of Pai Kanhaiyaji, which I'm sure you all know. On the battlefield, he was not just giving water to the Sikh soldiers, but he was giving water to all. And when his friends complained to Guruji, Guruji gave him the medicine. He says, now go forth and even heal these people. Because Pai Kanhaiya said, oh Lord, I do not see them as my enemies. I see them as you. Today, I've shared with you some beautiful concepts, some principles, some philosophies from the Sikh religion, which I think keep this religion relevant. I invite you to join us in the next many programs. We'll be touching on very important issues like the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. We'll be touching on many important issues like the Golden Temple, Harminder Sahib, Kirtan, Seva. We'll be talking about the Banis. We'll be talking about so many things. And we hope we all learn from it. And I'm using the word we all because this is not a lecture that I give to you, but equally it's a lecture that I share with myself. Pul chuk di maafi. I request for forgiveness if I've made a mistake in sharing these concepts. Thank you for your time. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.